Welcome back to the Power of You Summit. I am your host, Phyllis King, where I'm speaking with 13 experts in the field of personal and spiritual growth and health and wellness. And today, our very special guest is therapist, and life coach, Matthew Engel. Got to get my glasses on for this one. Now, Matthew has a global reach at this point and has helped thousands of people around the world achieve greater levels of happiness and well-being. His practice focuses on the integration of spirituality, psychotherapy, and coaching. And over the past 2.5 decades, he has always studied and explored cutting edge as well as tried and true modalities. And it's all with the goal of better serving his clients and ultimately to aid them in embodying their deepest levels of wisdom and authenticity in their lives. Matthew, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Phyllis, for inviting me. It's a pleasure. It's always wonderful to connect with you.
And I know you have such a body of work and experience. It's pretty difficult to encapsulate in just a brief introduction. So I would really love it if you could share with our viewers and listeners, some other things you feel are meaningful about your career and the work you do and why you do it.
Well, gosh, I guess there are a bunch of questions in that question. But I mean, at my core, I am passionate about authenticity. I am passionate about, for myself and for the people I work with, about living our deepest truth, our most authentic truth. We are not trained very well in society through family, culture, materialism, corporate expectations, cultural expectations, gender expectations, et cetera, and so forth. We are not trained very well to really honor the core of who we are and what we need. We also deal with throughout our lives any number of losses, any number of traumatic events, any number of facets of abuse in lots of different forms, all of which shape, hinder, limit, and skew our path away from the core of who we are.
Yeah.
And I really believe that that we, as bodies of light, as beings of light, come into a physical body with a template of karmic work to effectively find our way back to what is most authentic, what is most creative, what brings us love, what brings us joy, how to speak our truth, live our truth, be our truth,
Hmm.
in the most authentic way. And there are a lot of different tools that I use for that. I'm a
Well,
fairly
and
traditionally trained therapist. As you know, I've also worked as a therapist, as a psychic, as a coach, as a therapist. I use past life regression. There are a lot of, I use astrology and teach astrology. There are a lot of different ways. To me, it's all part of the same body of psyche and soul, universe and spirit. Being an individual who's part of the collective, but here to express ourselves in a way that is just most genuine,
yeah.
really brings us love and allows us to and supports us in coming alive and shining.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to skip all that over all that body of work you encapsulated for us very briefly, but I'd love to
Sure.
hone in a little bit on your viewpoints about the word authenticity, because it is a powerful word. And I wonder if people actually know what that means. So, how do you
Yeah, that's a good
help
question.
your people and your clients grasp what that is for themselves?
Through a lot of exploration about first starting with where the problems are coming up in their lives, whether it's through their relationship, whether it's through their career path, whether it's their relationship with money, whether it's family or cultural background, whether it's their relationship status, whether it's their social networks, where are their issues? Where is their constriction? Where are they experiencing symptoms of depression, anxiety, lack of satisfaction, grief? Where are they feeling stifled? Where are they holding back?
Hmm.
What's causing them pain? What are the pain points?
Hmm.
And always also looking at where there are strengths and building upon those, because that is equally as important as looking at where the pain points and problems are.
Mhm.
So really just kind of layer by layer connecting to what's causing them pain. What are some of the core beliefs that they've been taught about what a relationship is supposed to look like, how success is defined, what being good enough means,
Yeah.
what are some of the gender norms, stereotypes, and expectations that came from society, cultural background, immigration status, and so on and so forth. So really just kind of looking at all of that, and that person's relationship with all of the different ecosystems of their life.
Well, and it sounds like in your work and all the various modalities you offer to help people find the courage to look at themselves and embrace those pain points, as you say,
Yeah.
we sort of uncover who we always were. I mean, is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think a big part of therapy or any type of therapeutic work that's really good and comes from a place of depth, to begin with, it's starting by just creating a nurturing and containing environment for the person
Mhm.
to be able to just begin to give a voice to
Mhm.
the things that nobody else is hearing, nobody else is listening to, nobody else is affirming. Other people may be judging, other people may be gaslighting or criticizing, and so on and so forth. And just to help just creating that comfortable space,
Mhm.
and then beginning to draw connections, and then beginning to explore more deeply the layers of pain
Mhm.
and what that person is really needing, wishing for, hoping for on the most intimate level.
Yeah.
I do some,
Incredible. Yes.
I mean, because I come from kind of a psycho-spiritual
Mhm.
orientation, as you flagged in the beginning, and as you and I have talked about through countless hours over a very long number of years. We go back a long time at this point. You know, there are a lot of different tools for connecting to, who we are as a soul being, what
Mhm.
that higher self
Mhm.
is calling in or inviting in,
Mhm.
where we tend to settle for less.
Mhm.
That's a hot topic I know in your work,
Mhm.
and so many of us do that. We do
Yeah.
that with our relationships. We do that in our professional pathways. We do that when we're negotiating money,
Mhm.
salaries, putting a price tag on our services. We do that in all kinds of ways.
Mhm.
We do that when we're interacting with loved ones where we silence our voice.
Mhm.
Our voice becomes squelched.
Well, and this is so, I mean, this, you and I, of course, could go on for 2 hours
Of
very
course.
easily, but,
More than
and
that, yeah.
it really ties into the topic of this summit, which is, it's the power of you, but we're talking about
Yeah.
power itself. How do we access that power, which kind of is what you're doing in terms of helping people discover their authentic and true self. So when you think of the word power, and how do you direct your clients to access that part of themselves to find the courage and strength to move forward and to know it
Right.
even exists?
Right. Well, I don't have a how-to manual.
Oh, okay.
I
No
definitely
PDF you're
don't.
going to give us
Yeah,
today.
no PDF. I don't come from a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah,
I've never come from an orientation. There are a lot of coaches out there who kind of say, follow these 5 steps that I've
right.
coined, and
Of
and
course.
everything is going to be fabulous in your life.
Right.
We're all unique. I don't think that there is a one size fits all approach, but talking things through, certainly. I use body centered approaches. I use guided breathing, guided meditation, tools for really just breathing in and listening to that inner voice, connecting with parts of our inner child. When people find themselves holding back or experiencing fear, experiencing sadness, getting restless, feeling less than, connecting through the body.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, saying, how old do you feel
Mm-hmm.
in this moment? As
Mm-hmm.
you just breathe into whatever feeling is coming up for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Very often, that's their inner 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 5-year-old So we take some time
Mm,
and we reparent that part of themselves. And I believe in it wholeheartedly. I mean, in 28 years of doing this work professionally, every single person has the capacity to provide love, tenderness, and wisdom to the parts of themselves that have been wounded, that have been
mm,
shut down,
mm,
that have been abused, that have been, stifled.
mhm,
So checking in with the higher self, that wise, compassionate adult self, and saying, hey,
mm,
you have within you what that inner 5-year-old needs.
mhm,
Sometimes we do a little guided meditation, a little bit of soft hypnotherapy, just to kind of connect, your inner adult sitting side by side. If you were to imagine
mhm,
that 5-year-old that's hurting, that's feeling afraid,
mhm,
shut down, that was bullied
mhm,
by whomever, family, kids, teachers,
mhm,
um, and just sitting and containing and holding. I'm
mhm.
a huge proponent of self nurturing. And to me, self nurturing is not about just getting like more manicures and pedicures. I mean, yeah, that stuff might be fun,
Yeah.
but it's about really being with and developing the tools to be tender, to nurture,
Mhm,
hold, contain,
mhm,
to give ourselves a hug. Notice, visually, I'm touching my own heart center
mhm,
as I'm speaking because there's an energy exchange and a
mhm,
transformation, I
mhm,
think, on a soul level, on a body, mind, soul level,
mhm,
that comes from being with those parts that hurt, holding, containing,
mhm,
and being very honest
mhm,
with ourselves. And yes, there are tools where we can use hypnotherapy to start to rewrite some of the scripts as we connect to those pain points. Can begin to release them, transform them, rewrite the scripts around that.
mhm.
We can develop new behaviors. We can look at making changes in our relationships. I am a big proponent for a lot of people in looking at what variables and influences in our lives where we need to
Mhm.
process.
Well, and I think one of the things I love about your practice and the different ways you can work with people is that so many of us feel like that if we ask for help or look for
Right.
that such critical support that really aids us in our healing. But you have, like you said, I don't know that you offer this too much, but I'm sure you use it. You've been a psychic, you're an astrologer, you're a hypnotherapist. You have a lot of different tools in your tool belt to draw
Yes.
upon to help people find their way with you.
All of that.
Um, and that was by design, I'm assuming, but also because you have a voracious appetite for self-growth and learning.
I do. And I'm a product of my work and
Mhm.
continue to be. I am not sitting on any pedestals. I continue to work on myself.
Mhm.
I take time for myself. Just as I was sharing with you very briefly before we started the call today, before we started the recording, I have not done any events in 2024. I had some losses and changes. 23 was an insane year for me personally, and I needed to take a year off from courses and writing and seminars and talks. Whereas for 20 years, I mean, there have always been courses and seminars and talks and interviews and articles and
But
that
you're
kind of stuff.
honoring your
I'm not as
process, right?
entrepreneurial as you are.
Uh,
I've never.
you're
You are
funny.
the goddess when it
You're
comes to
so
course
funny.
offerings. But
All right,
as
so
you know,
some
I've
of
always
us are more neurotic than others. Just say it.
productive, entrepreneurial, expansive.
But I just love all the different ways you can meet people. And
Yeah.
whether it's through an astrological chart or through
Yes.
the past life regression or the coaching or the business coaching, all the different
Right.
things. I just think that's so beautiful for people.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you. I really appreciate that. And I've
Oh,
always
no.
appreciated being seen by
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
for, the uniqueness of the way that I weave the different parts of my work and myself together. That's
Absolutely.
something you've
I'm,
always just kind of honed in on from the very first time that we met, which was
yeah.
like 17 years ago, I think.
Well, I
Um,
would say that the one thing I always notice in the world is people who are light workers, and it's obvious that you are that. And so I keep track of light people
yeah,
selfishly. So,
thank you. Something I would also say that I think is really important. I think in some ways therapy gets a bad rep. Um, there are a lot of therapists out there who just kind of sit in silence and
Oh,
say, or they take on a very non-directive approach, or they have a
right.
very cognitive approach, none of which is how I work.
Mm-hmm.
I am very nurturing and containing, but I'm also
Mm-hmm.
very, very direct.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't find it helpful in working for people working with someone who's not giving them feedback,
Yeah.
who's not offering suggestions, who's not pointing out inconsistencies and saying, hey, wait a minute, you said this,
Mm-hmm.
but you're doing that.
Right.
Is that serving you?
Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah.
is that? How is that? How does that make you feel? What
Mm-hmm.
is that an example? Is that choice an example of what you've articulated,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be, wanting to feel, wanting to express,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. So I think really having that interactive by asking very probing questions and by pointing out the quirks and the idiosyncrasies and asking some of the harder questions and going there. I think that's
And
really
then
important.
supporting them through it while they find the courage
Absolutely.
to answer those challenging
Absolutely.
questions. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of superficial work out there. There's a lot of work out there that gets very, very heady, overly
Yeah.
intellectualized. There's a lot of coaching out there, as you know, where people operate, practitioners are operating from just a real cookie cutter approach,
Mm-hmm.
which is definitely not how you or I were.
Mm-hmm.
Each person is unique and needs something different.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what I do with any new client is really getting a feel for what makes that person unique? What are they needing from me? And am I the best person necessarily to support them? That's important
Mm-hmm.
too. I've
Mm-hmm.
never had an approach in trying to sell someone on my work. If
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the best person to support them, I'm the first person to tell them that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Well,
so
and
important too.
speaking of authenticity, there it is.
Right.
Mr. Matthew Engel,
Well,
the height
thank
of
you.
authenticity for
Thank
sure.
you. Thank
And
you. My website is
yes, please tell us that.
matthewengel.com. Should I put that in the chat box? Is
Um,
that,
we'll put it
I don't
up
know.
on
Are
the
we visual?
screen in the
Okay.
editing so folks can
Oh,
see it.
perfect.
But
Okay.
yeah.
So it's matthewengel.com, Matthew with two T's, Engel. I work all remotely. I'm based in the San
Mhm.
Francisco Bay Area. For psychotherapy, I'm licensed for people to work with people in California or Massachusetts, but for
Oh,
obviously for therapeutic coaching, regression work, and astrology and so forth, I work with people everywhere. Yeah.
yes, I love that. And I know when the pandemic came about and we all kind of got on the Zoom train, and when
Right.
we never got off the Zoom train.
No,
I-
no.
and I think everyone's in resistance to going back to
I
anything.
am. I
Yeah.
love this remote work. You can take it
Yeah.
anywhere, work with people anywhere.
And it's
It was actually
convenient
funny
for
for
people.
me.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been doing some of my work remotely pre-pandemic, and I don't know if you remember this, but something I remember saying to you for a couple of years pre-pandemic is, gosh, I'd love to be able to just shift my work 100% remote so that
Mhm.
I can work with people everywhere, so that I can travel and work and this and that. Lo and
Yes.
behold, the pandemic happened and I got what I wished for. I was working with clients when I was in Mexico a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Super easy. Went to
Beautiful.
the beach in the morning and then after work and, after sessions, and
Be
it was
careful, you're
great.
making people jealous. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, you are definitely a wealth of wisdom and compassion and sincerity, which we all need a lot more of in these challenging times and transformative times we're living in collectively, which is
Yeah,
impacting us all so significantly. But
on so many levels.
yes. I just thank you so much for taking time out
Thank
of your
you.
schedule to be here today and support this work. And I just encourage everyone to visit matthewengel.com. And Matthew, again, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Phyllis. It's always a pleasure. Lots of love to you and everybody.
Thanks.